Alright, I'm going to try to do this video again. I don't know why. I've tried like 3 or 4 times now, and every time it seems like there's some kind of thing I have to redo it. Okay, so this red bag is I already undid this and did this video just minutes ago and found that for whatever reason it's all laggy and doesn't look right. So I'm redoing it. Normally this bag's packed down a little bit tighter. So this is my camping and my backup emergency supplies for the house. If I go on if I'm going out overnight, this goes with me, period. So let's take a quick look at it. What I have is, this is all broken down into what I consider the ways that you would need to worry about wounds. So when you open it, the first thing on top is this piece of paper, which is not only an inventory list, but it tells you how the gear is laid out in the bags. So I have the survival gear, meds, wound prep, wound care, a trauma kit, personal protection, and bandages, a suture kit, tooth aid, and also an IV starter kit. So let's break in here. We'll take a look at some stuff as I pull it out. So right here is a med kit. So basically you have Alka-Seltzer, ibuprofen, sinus, just meds in general. And then you have some things for for bites and stings. And here's a list of what's in this bag. So if something comes out of it, we can always mark it off, because I have a pen in here too. And that way I know what I need to refill. So here's a personal protection bag, and I try to layer it in the bag as I think things are going to need it. I don't know why the focus is this video just does not want to happen. So, CRP shield, a thermometer, which is disposables, 20 Q-tips, a pen, and a WFA field report. So basically there's a piece of paper back here to write the person's that's injured, their vitals and whatever information you gain from them. That way when you ship them out, they have something with them going to the hospital or doctor or whatever, an idea of what's been done and what you've seen going on, and they have a record. So right here we have a wound care kit. So this is just simple wound care. I have some meds in there for personal things, but you're not going to be able to get unless you have a prescription. But small cable ties, tweezers, eye wash, some iodine for wound prep, antibiotics, band-aids, small band-aids, knuckle band-aids, stereo strips. Those can be used as a replacement for stitches on larger wounds. And Tamardia film, which if I pronounce it wrong, I'm sorry, but here you can have a look at it. Let's see, right there. Basically, it's a clear covering that you can put over a wound, and even like an eye patch. So here's a wound prep bag, alcohol pads, more iodine, the compounded benzene. This stuff right here is a skin prep that make bandages stick better. Antiseptic towels, and microbial cleaning fluid, and more iodine. So I have some, and I have everything labeled. If it's in a bottle that wasn't the original bottle because the original was too big or something, if I change something, it is clearly labeled what it is. You have to remember, in med kit in the military, if a person's wearing a med kit, that's their med kit to be used on them. If you come across somebody on the ground, you're taking their gear and using it. You're not taking your gear, because your gear is in case you get hurt. So you want people that may come up upon anything that you have as a med kit and be able to look at it relatively quickly and know what you have to help you. You may not be able to say, oh, dig a little deeper. So this is a full-blown trauma kit: surgical dressings, non-stick pads, a chest seal. You can kind of see what I have in there. Blood clotting stuff, not an ace bandage. See, this is why you have to go through your kits. This isn't going to go old, but things do, and you need to look at your kits every once in a while. Shows you how long ago I got this and put this together. A tourniquet. I knew it would come to me. Dress seals. This here's a pressure bandage, or some may know it as an Israeli bandage. It's just the bigger stuff for bigger wounds. Somebody falls and puts a branch right through their chest. Yeah, it sounds stupid, but I'll tell you, I was camping with my ex-wife and I got hit in the back of my shoulder. It was my doing, and it was totally freaky. One of those things. I was cutting, I had an area set up where I was cutting wood. It was late at night. I grabbed the branch to put on the fire, and I was going to use the hatchet to chop it. I didn't even touch the hatchet. And I said the branch was small enough and it would break if I just snapped it over the log that I was using to cut. I took it and slammed it against the log, and out of the corner of my eye I could see was this like glittering in the air, and I had no clue to what just happened. But just something instinctively made me grab my head and run. And the next thing I knew, I got hit in the back of the shoulder, right by the neck, right there, with the hatchet that I must have had laying on top of it. I couldn't tell you how it happened. All I know is the next thing I know, that hatchet hit me right in the back of the shoulder and put a gash about inch and a half long and at least a half-inch deep. And if we didn't have some gear, we were out on a river that we're in no man's land. There are no houses, there's no campground, there's nothing. It's just us. And my ex-wife didn't know how to really paddle a kayak or a canoe. We were in canoes at the time. It would have been a bad situation if we didn't have gear and I wasn't able to get my stuff back together. So anyhow, a life straw. This is all part of the survival kit that's in here. Some disposable scalpels, 3 or 4 in here. You know, this isn't to do surgery in the field, but if you needed a knife, or say you had a little sliver that was under the skin and you needed to make a little cut to get to it, the sharper the knife, the less pain cutting into you. Pair of trauma scissors. This is just like field dressing type bandages. Triangular bandage, you know, everybody's like, nobody uses those, but you'll be surprised in how many outdoor wilderness first aid kits. This is a major player because you can do so many things with it. You could use it to make a sling for somebody's arm. You could use it to tie a branch to somebody's leg to make a, what I want to say, not a cast, but you know what I'm saying. It'll come to me brain dead this morning. But you can use them in so many different ways, and you can just use them as a bandage. Hold a bandage on or covering. A large ace bandage, you can use this the same way. You could wrap this around a stick on somebody's arm for a fracture, for a splint. And then these are just self-adhering bandages here. And then here, this, so you know, you get in the mail or whatever, the credit cards that people are trying to blank cards, just basically a piece of plastic. I'll take those and I'll cut them down, and then I re-roll a whole roll of tape around it just so it's not as bulky. And you know, these are the things you want to look at because they sit in your kayaks. This always sits in the house, but you want to every once in a while tear one of these apart and make sure this stuff is still sticky, in which it is. Because some of this tape and the bandages, that stuff will all go old. It's pointless having it in your box or your kit and it's non-usable anymore. So here's just a simple basic first aid kit. A poncho. This looks like just thread, but really this is Kevlar thread. And it's got like a 200-pound hanging weight on it. Emergency lighting. I carry one of these in my vest. One of the first things I've ever noticed when I'm looking at, you know, reports of people being stranded or reading about people, you know, stuck out in the wilderness for several days or whatever, is the fear. Just, are you going to be all right? If you have a way of, oh, I forgot to show you. So here's the list for the trauma kit. And you can see it's all listed. Somebody can look at that immediately. They can look at the first list and look for that bag. What's in here? So the fear, not knowing if you're going to be all right. If you have light to me is like one of the most important things. From there you can move on. At least you're not in the dark. Survival kit. So this is a SOL kit, S-O-L, that I broke out of their bag and just threw in my own bag. And you can buy these. It's a good little basic kit. And they also have that kit, a little bit more stuff, but with this knife. And this knife to me, it's a CRKT, is like one of the nicest miniature. This is actually designed to fit into an Alkaloids tin for the tin size first aid kits. What I like about it is it's got super good material, holds an edge. It's all steel. It's not flimsy. It's not cheap. I mean, that's a thick piece of material right there. If I had to tap that through something or hit it down into beat something and split it or whatever, I'm not worried about this breaking. Can I break it? I can break anything. Give me enough time. But for what a survival situation, this is like probably one of the best knives I've seen for it. That you can carry. Yeah, I carry 2 knives usually every day. But I don't carry this because I don't carry a first aid kit in my pocket every minute of the day. I have 2 of them in my truck, a small and a big. And just simple thing, once again here I took duct tape and flattened it out. Emergency survival blankets. If somebody's cold, I mean, if you can get them hyper or shock or whatever, these are the things that matter. Not only that, but some string, a rope, or some of that twine, a branch or 2, and you could put together some kind of little lean-to, or not lean-to, but some kind of shelter for somebody if you had to, or yourself. A can opener. Water tablets. You may, water tablets, that stuff's only going to work on fresh water. You may not be in a place where if you're out on the sea, you're kind of screwed. It may be the next day, if you're lucky, that you can maybe pull together some kind of catch dew in the morning, or some kind of using foliage to get water. Because nothing, unless you built some desalination or evaporation type setup, you're going to get the salt out of the water. Water is gold. So this is a little bit more, and this goes a long way somewhere different. A suture kit, tooth aid, and an IV starter. A suture kit, it's a full-blown medical suture kit. Is it for me to give stitches to somebody? No. Is it for me to stitch myself up? Well, that I never know. This is really more for, because all this is part, I live in Florida. All it takes is one good hurricane come right through the middle of the state, and the state's on its head. The doctors, medical people, all that are going to be overloaded totally. And this may be what a doctor needs to do his job on you or somebody in an off-site situation. So then you have basically everything in here you need. Sutures, the whole 9 yards, needle to administer some kind of local anesthetic. And I'm covering something up because it may not be good to put on camera, but it's also very good to use if you're getting stitches. But this isn't for you to go put stitches in other people. This is for a medical professional to use. It's sterile. It's completely usable. This is the same scenario. This is the start of an IV. And it's not for you. You're not going to have the stuff to drop an IV, but if a medical tech it was short on gear or whatever, this may get some fluids into a person. This really would go in the other kit. It's not on the list because I added this later. This is Vet Bond tissue adhesive. So basically, this is super glue for skin, for cuts. You can't just buy what they use at the doctor's office. If you can, I've never been able to find it. But it being for a dog or a cat or vet type material, this right here, it will work on a human, and it's sanitized, it's sterile. There's there's antibiotics for fish that are the same antibiotics humans take. At some point, some of this stuff could become a lot crazier than we think of it. You know, this is being filmed right at the start of the coronavirus in the United States. And we're already seeing where shortages and places are being affected by it. These aren't doomsday scenarios, these are actual scenarios. And then nobody knows everything. So just a simple first aid bind or some instructions, a decent little book. And last but not least, a SAM splint, 36 inches long. So you could do, and just because these aren't the limits of what you could do with this, but it just gives you a nice thing to use to immobilize a limb or whatever. And I mean, there's probably a million other things you could come up to use this for if you had to. But I just have it wrapped around like this, and it sits in the bottom of the bag. So, and that puts us to the end. So just real quick, just to give you an overall idea. And is there any, there's no really one specific bag. The break open. If you guys have any questions, if somebody puts a question on there, I'll go into some. Oh, I did want to talk about this real quick. So this is just simple, just some or whatever it is, the stuff to take some tooth pain away that you can rub on. Some cotton, you can take the Albasol and saturate this and stick it into a mouth if you had a broken tooth or whatever, and that will help. Just like some picks, just some very general basic stuff. This right here is tooth clay, so if a filling fell out or whatever, you can pack the hole back in. You know, I'm looking, if we go camping on usual, it's at least 2 days. So you get past 2 days, you're out. The last thing you want to do is suffer with a toothache for 4 days. If you can help it, you may not be able to get to a point where you can get it fixed. So that's why everything, and let me show you something, because I'm going to break this open. And this is why I pack my gear the way I do. And something to think about. The Sealant Meals, they are like the greatest thing. But let's see here. So this is some other stuff for pain. But look what happened. I don't know if you can see it. It opened. I mean, there's still material in the container, but it actually leaked out. See how the plastic has got the brown tint to it? If this wasn't separately sealed, it would have leaked out in here and ruined the whole kit. So I'll have to replace this. I'll check all the dates on everything here and replace it. But I mean, it's just some stupid stuff. And I mean, a pair of tweezers. You just don't know. And to have a little, and something from like this kit here may also help with something else. Ambisol. So it's being able to do the things you know, a few things that maybe somebody else might know, and to cover your bases, because you just don't know. If we knew, it would be simple. Oh, I have to take with this time because Bob, he always falls down and cuts the back of his head open, and we have to do sutures. I mean, it just doesn't ever work that way. I mean, but yeah, if you're going to have a bigger kit like this, it's one thing if you have a small kit and there's only like 10 things in it or 5 things. That's, you know, you don't have to break it down. You don't have to be quite as meticulous about it. But if you have this much stuff, you want to have a way to reseal, at least a basic resealing of every kit back into itself, so that if you do have to move or whatever, you can get, it's not like you just take all this and throw it back into that bag. And a good medical, some type of good first aid kit, you have to take a good first aid, not kit, but class. I lucked out when I was younger. I was in the Civil Air Patrol, and at 13, I was able to, because I was in the Civil Air Patrol and we got a variance, I was able to take the Red Cross Advanced First Aid training. And at that time, you had to be 18 years old to take it and to be certified. And at 13, I was certified. And I've taken multiple other first aid classes over time too. So I have a good idea of everything here I could use if I actually had to use it. There's no doubt in my mind. The IV, that's the only thing I couldn't use, and the only reason is because you're just not going to carry IV material. So there's no point of, you know, you can't set one up. You could set one up in the field if somebody got dropped off, a medic, and they had an IV bag. But other than that, you're not going to need that for anything. I put a first aid kit in here because if I had a bug out of my house, this would go with me. Alright, so give me a second. I want to go grab something else real quick and show you, just to give you an idea. Okay, so I had to run in the house real quick to grab this. This is the only problem that building your own kits creates. And it's kind of a problem, it's kind of not a problem. Okay, so this is first aid supply basket or whatever, cube. So when you're trying to narrow down, when you're buying stuff, nothing comes 5. I'm sure you can buy 5, but 5 is going to cost you $10. 20 or 30 is going to cost you $5. It's just the way it works. So these are extra meds. And what I've done before is, if I'm taking a class, what I'll do is I'll grab some of this stuff and I'll hand it out to people at the class and let them, that way they can add to their kits or whatever. But you do, and you will end up with, and some of it's not quite as important because it'll last for many years. And so the self-clinging tape, if you go buy it from 3M for humans, it's like crazy expensive. But if you buy it 3M for vet, and this isn't direct wound, this shouldn't be used directly on a wound. This is holding a gauze, bandage, and whatever else in place. It's dirt cheap. You buy like 6 rolls of it, and I can't remember, but it's way cheaper than for humans. Dressings. You just end up with a ton of extra everything. And like I say, what I'll do is, if I'm taking a class with a limited number of people, because I can't give 20 people 20 things, but I can give 5 people 1 thing each. You know, extra foil blankets. Now, once again, this may be a completely needed backup if we had a hurricane. So, to give you an idea, these are Sawyer 1-liter bottles, and then these are Katadyn water purification tablets for 1 liter. So you have 3 bottles in here, and like I think there's enough for two 2 uses on each bottle, or 1 12 times or whatever. But this is all packed together. 1, 2, open up, pour contaminated water in, and purify it right in this pouch. It's understanding what you got and using it. This stuff right here, Afterbite, works great. I recommend it. One of the best, just basic field outdoor first aid training you can take. I mean, they cover all the bases, and this goes back. These, when you're taking these classes, this is saying that you're going to be in the woods for a day maybe with somebody injured before you can get help. And just general frostbite, lightning, soft tissue injuries, things that you will actually see. So when you go to buy disposable scalpels, you can find them one by one, but it costs more money. So much, it's cheaper when you're buying the bulk. So you end up with extra stuff. Look at that needle. Now that's a syringe for irrigation. Now, because of something we had happen in the summer last summer, I've been carrying these on me now. I'm going to start carrying these during the winter or summer, at least one. But the problem is these bags, you can't put it in anything tight or the bag will break open. But basically, if you had somebody that was hypothermic, you have some cool, break one of these, break 2 of these or 1 of these, put it on their forehead, back of the neck, or under their arm, and that'll help cool them down really quick. I always found when I used to work outdoors, I still do, but I used to frame houses outside that one of the best things to do to cool yourself back down was water on the back of the neck. And even in here, everything's in pouches so that if one pouch breaks open, it doesn't contaminate everything. Compound tinging of benzene. So once again, these are swabs. I didn't like these because after time, these actually start to leak. But what this is if say you can put it around the wound, it cleans the skin and it gives it better adhesion for a Band-Aid. And then this is just iodine. But you could take this, cut this off, squirt it on the wound, use it to irrigate it. You could cut it open, stick that syringe in here, pull it up into the syringe, and then use a little bit more pressure to irrigate if you had to. So I'm not going to go through every single thing in here, but I think you get the idea. It's just like almost anything you get. Believe it or not, this is what the this is gauze rolls for mouth that I've airtight down. But you end up with a bunch of extras, so you may be able to help some friends out if they needed something. Once again, you don't want to go. You got to watch your dates because stuff will expire. These Nepal are killer. They're natural insect repellents. We've been using them for years now. They work really, really good. I think I did one on a bug bag video. I don't see anything. Oh, just a generic cheap poncho. And we actually bought these for going to a concert. Just throw in your back pocket. Because in Florida, if it isn't raining now, it will rain soon. And it's just, after time, it's just like any kit. Nobody is going to, well, not nobody, that's a generally stupid statement, but most people are never going to be able to afford to go out and drop all this money at any one given time. And I couldn't. I mean, this is years of building and knowing what I'm doing and working towards specific goals with specific things. I want to make it. These are the things I need. I didn't have to start from ground. I had a basic to do. My first survival kits were basic survival kits that you could buy at the store for like $25, $30. They were very simple. water, fire, shelter. If you can get those three, you can get together and make the rest work for you. It's just first aid, stop the bleeding. If you can't stop the bleeding, you're never going to win the war. So you got to understand what you're doing, where your priorities, and that's what classes and the training starts to teach you, is what to look at first. If you walk up on somebody and have a big bump on their head and it looks terrible, but they're got a cut in their leg that's bleeding out, you're not even going to worry about the head. The first thing you're going to do is address that leg. But it's understanding your priorities, and that's what training's all about. Even simple basic training. It's just that little bit, you keep building. It's just like your kit. You start with something small. You start with that kit there, and then you add a few things to you. You say, you go out, man, if I think this could be a problem, or if I had that this time, it would have been much easier. And at some point, you get to the point like right now, I really have to look to buy something if I want to buy something, because my kit's pretty darn near complete. You know, right now I'm just adding or modifying very small things just to make convenience, life better. It's, you know, I'm camping, but I want to have a good time camping. All right, I think I took up enough of your time. I hope that helped a little bit. I didn't want to go in and break every single bag open. I don't think there's any one bag. I think you could see, let me put this up, and you could always pause this and get a better idea of what I think are things to have. And like I said, you can go on, all these little meds are all available, single, you know, 10 count packets for $5 or whatever. You know, the thing here is if you go buy, you can go buy Alka-Seltzer, that's simple because that's pre-packed, but aspirin, you're kind of screwed. And if you're going to Walmart or whatever, you're paying way more money for smaller packaging. And there was nothing, these things are killer lice straws, but this is, to me, an emergency. You could drink all day off this if you wanted to, but to me, this is an emergency backup. I have a larger 6-liter water purifier that drop through one, so that's my main backup. First aid kits, the triangular bandages, like I said, we think they're outdated, and I used to get them out of old med kits just because nobody ever used them. A trauma kit, you know, do you need a trauma kit on your first? No. This is something you can kind of work around. This becomes more as if you're going out for days with a group of people. You know, I'm also kind of like I am certified in so many things that I have to actually step up and take that leader position sometimes, just because I have the skills. And so to me, I need to have the gear that I can use that may benefit somebody else. You know, but this could be a small kit this big, and that's not a little bit bigger the size of the kit in my life vest that is always with me when I'm paddling for the most part, unless I'm just purely training with a small group that I know. If I'm going out for a day paddle, it's with me. And then you build up this tooth kit. Even if you go really simple and just put some Ambisol in. Ambisol and this stuff right here, dental putty, dental temp it's called, just because that's not super common, but it is something we know that can happen. A lost filling, a crown pops off, something like that. Even for a day. I mean, if you're paddling down a river, there's no like halfway through, you can just stop, pull over, and go to the drugstore. This is all just to make your day a little better and get you to the end, so you're not like totally in pain. And what you're in pain, you're ruining the day for everybody else, because now everybody else is worried about you. All right, that was longer than I thought, but I'll get this done. Been trying to get it done and start getting a few more videos out. All right, have a great day. Thanks.